We have a really steep lake lot that we got to get French drains in on. We're going to show you how we did it. Check it out. We're in Metamora, Michigan. We have another house on the hill with a drainage problem. Erosion, it's with every house on a hill, there's erosion. You got retaining walls, look at this. What you have to have in place to control water, people don't think about it. Everybody's like, buy the house on the hill. Well, maybe settle for something in between. So all the water comes off of this steep grade, just absolutely saturates. They have this beautiful deck right on the water, and they got this nice yard where they can entertain. Now, we used all the dirt to rebuild the shore. There was a lot of erosion here from all the water that came down. So all the dirt basically got used right there to fill in that gully. But you can see all the retaining walls. Just, people are always like, oh, don't buy the home that needs drainage. Buy the house on the hill. Okay, so the house on the hill needs 60,000, maybe 80,000 in retaining wall, depending on what you construct it out of and how much retaining wall you need. Drain is much cheaper. If you find a home that you love and it's in the school district that you want, location, 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 and it needs some drainage, I wouldn't let that phase you. So this is a double piped 4-inch because of the amount of water that's coming off this high ground. You're going to see all the water that funnels its way right into this backyard. Pretty significant. So we went from our usual 3.5-inch pipe and we bumped it up to 4. We're always going to run double pipes, always. It's going to help with sediment. Definitely help control sediment when you have a wider trench. So it's hard for us to work in here. You can see we're under the confines of the landscaping, retaining wall. The guys are putting in some pins to hold the pipes in place. These are really big pins. They're 6 inches wide. I believe they're 9 inches long. Now this is going to keep the pipe from moving, and it's going to prevent the stone from rolling underneath the pipe. You can see how the guys can come in here with a wheelbarrow because we can't use the ditch witch. We don't have no room to turn the ditch witch. Between how steep the grade is, it's just, we're working in a real confined area. But having these pins in, you can see how we pin down the pipe. We don't have to worry about the stone getting underneath the pipe and then losing our perfect slope. Over here, same thing. We got a double piped 4-inch Man, those pins hold really, really well. If you're a DIYer and you don't have an 8-man crew, you're going to want these pipe pins to hold the pipe down. The rock wants to roll under the pipe. The rock is so heavy, it goes down the side of the trench and it pushes the pipe. It pushes it and the rock rolls under it, and you lose your perfect slope that you work so hard for. So make sure you take some measures to keep that pipe in place, to keep that pipe down. There was a drain here, and they used the drain sock. They didn't use the drain fabric. So it failed. The guys are going to wheelbarrow the stone in. It's time consuming, but it's the only way it's getting done. Can't get the machine in here. Too steep. Too many things in the way. And it's really soft and muddy back here too. So you can see how these pins are holding the pipe in place. The guys they're able just to dump those wheelbarrows right on top of the pipe. The stone's not moving the pipe out of alignment. You know, we find like every 3 feet. You know, it depends on the soil type, but if you get a good hold every 3 feet, like right here, we're getting a really good hold. Really important that you keep your pipe at the bottom of your French drain. We pull out a lot of failed drains, and a lot of them, when they were dumping stone in, the pipe got pushed away and got pushed up. That's easy. Super easy for a DIYer. There's just 2 of you. Definitely put in these pipe pins. Hold your pipe in place. People want to know what makes a really good French drain. Simple. It's the details. It's all the little things. Everything that we talk about on this channel. Make the most of your sweat equity. Do it right the first time. A lot of times corrugated pipe wants to curl, you know, after being all rolled up, especially in the cold. When it's cold, it's even harder to get that to lay flat. We got some tree roots, but we were still able to get a couple pins in to hold down these cleanouts. We always run 2 pipes. We don't run just 1 pipe. Many years ago, there was a pipe shortage, and we did run 1 pipe for a short period of time. And I'll tell you, we still dug out as much dirt, and we just had to fill in more of the trench with stone because we wanted to cut down on the sediment. Look how nice and straight this French drain is. Leave it a little low because you want to put some sand on top of the fabric, and then you put the grass on top of the sand. That way the French drain will actually take in some surface water as well. You don't want to clog your fabric. Now this is the way this fabric works. It lets the sediment through. If you install it correctly, it lets the sediment flow through. It's a soil separator, so it's supposed to separate all the soil so the soil don't fill the voids. But fine sediment is going to wash through. It's double punched. The sediment washes through. You're going to have sediment at the bottom of your trench, but it has to wash through for the fabric not to plug. That's how this fabric works. Big misconception, and a lot of guys don't understand that. The sediment washes through the fabric, guys. It catches all the, you know, soil granulars, if you will. You know, the real fine sediment, it really just fits through all the double punch holes, the fabric will clog, guys, if it's not designed for the sediment to wash through. So you're going to get sediment in the bottom of your trench. So put cleanouts on your French drain, and always put 2 pipes in, because 2 pipes hold you to a tolerance where you have a wider French drain trench. Let me explain. The sidewall is where all the sediment's coming from. So if this trench is narrow, the sediment's going to build up higher in the bottom of the trench. The same amount of sediment from the sidewall are going to end up in a single pipe trench as a double pipe trench. So go 2 pipes wide. That little bit of sediment will spill over a greater area, so it's not working its way up into the pipe, up high into the pipe. You know, 40 years of building French drains, and our first ones that we installed are still working as good as the last ones we were installing. That says a lot. 4 decades. They say the proof is in the results. Well, we've proven that this is the best way to do a French drain in a backyard. Again, we don't have to worry about the stone going under the pipe. Normally we have, you know, 3 guys standing on the pipe. These pipe pins, they hold it down. Depending on your soil type, man, some soil, and it really holds. It's unbelievable, actually. But people are always telling me, my pipe, when I'm dumping stone on my French drain pipes, we have a hard time keeping the slope on the pipe. Stone is getting underneath the pipe, and we're only a 2-man crew. What do? Well, you use these pins. That's what you do. So now that we got through this bottleneck and we filled this drain with stone, we could put our turf protection mats down. We can drive the ditch witch in and out of here. Now we can more efficiently install this French drain with the skid loader. Grass is really soft back here. The grade's really steep. You can see the water just oozing out. But when all that moisture on the entire yard and lot finds its way down to the low point and it gets caught right here on this plateau, you got to have French drains to get that water out of there. Any water that makes it by the first line of defense is going to get caught in our second French drain right here. You know, we're probably 12 inches wide here, 12 to 14 inches wide. Guys dug out a lot of soil. You know, we typically are around, on an average, 14 inches deep. 12 to 14 inches wide here. 14 to 16 inches deep. You know, these are averages. Of course, we got to put slope. We do have slope here. We're using the slope that's here. There's enough. It's steep. The guys are cutting the excess fabric off. We have to make sure that those holes... Now, if the guys didn't trim this and they just had a heavy overlap where there was 2 layers of fabric, the water's not going to go through that. There's a bunch of little holes punched in this. Tons of little needle holes punched in this. Look at that. You can see them. Unbelievable. You can see that this has been ran through a process where a bunch of needle holes have been punched in it. Really helps for the flow rate, but these needle punch holes, when you double up the fabric, they don't line up. You can see them all. It's impossible. So you only want like about 3-inch overlap to push your fabric pins in, and you want to trim it so that it's not overlapping too much. You know, if it's excessive, you're not going to grab up any water from the surface with it. .6 inches wide, about 9 inches long. These work really good. for DIYers. So right now we have nobody standing on the pipe because we have it all pinned down. So we never had much luck with pipe with a sock on it for a French drain. This is the pipe that we pulled out that failed. Yeah, they clearly were cutting corners because that's duct tape, and that's not the right tape. You need plumbing tape. Really steep. Guys have to work their way down the grade. They actually got to back down this grade. You just take your time, slow like a pro. Don't rush it. You end up over this retaining wall on the beach. Machine tips over. What do you got? You know, it's a mess. So this is drainage sand. We're going to put drain sand on top of the drain. Every few feet, drop a bag. Leave your French drain a little low. You might have clay-backed sod. If you got clay-backed sod, you put the clay on the fabric without the sand, you're not going to get any good drainage until the roots finally do grow through the fabric, which that's going to take some time. So the guys on both French drains, they got bags every about 3 feet. Once they get the whole French drain encapsulated, they're going to put a layer of sand on top. It's going to catch the water. This French drain is going to move a lot of water. Guys are getting all the sand down. They're moving quick. They're moving really quick. Level it out. Leave room for your sod. Yeah, we got some nice weather, finally. So the guys just take the sod, they cut it with a sod cutter, and then they cut it in manageable pieces, and now you see why. Boy, this angle's killing us with the machines. Guys that do this kind of work and operate this kind of equipment, you know all the challenges. Did the track come off? Yep. We lost the track. We lost the track. Track came off. These are the things that you don't see. These things happen. Now we're going to have to get this track back on before we can continue work. This machine is down. It jumped the sprocket, started to creep off. We're going to see if we can get this back on. We're in a backyard where there's no way to get this machine out, I can tell you that. So we have to work on it in this backyard, and we have to get that track back on. All right, so the guy's got pry bars and a sledgehammer. This is very scientific. Putting a track back on is extremely scientific. It's brute force is what it is. So we had to let all the grease out of it. If you know anything about these machines, you grease them up to tighten the track. And if you want to loosen it, you got to take grease out. So
that one's still on.
Oh, it was coming.
And it's almost there.
Dale, al pasito. Dale. Dale. Dale.
Good times. All right, so now we put the grease fitting back in, pump it up, tighten it up, and hopefully we can get out of here without this happening again. Well, at least you fixed it. You broke it, you know? All right, back to the French drain. So we got a clean out right here. We know we have another clean out right next to that. We just use one turf plate so that homeowners don't have to look at two turf plates. Look at that, it looks really nice. Hardly tell we were here. Once we take the blower and we stand the grass back up, you won't even be able to tell we were here. The video footage doesn't really show just how steep this is. That's always been the case. Whether you're taking video or pictures, you can't really, see just how much slope and how hard the angle is in this backyard. But it is steep. These machines are sliding around. So nobody's standing on the pipe. Nobody's standing on the pipe because we use those pins to stake the pipe in place. I just want to explain that so people aren't in the comments saying, how come you're not holding the pipe down? The guys, they got these pins and they're holding the pipe down really, really well. We've had a lot of success. We've had a lot of success with these pins. Now, the way these machines are sliding all over on this hard angle, we don't want our guys, near the bucket because these machines are sliding forward, backward. You got to remember, these guys are skilled operators. They've had these machines in crazy places. They pretty much fear nothing at this point. They know the machine. They know what it's going to do. We get water on these turf protection mats and it gets a little bit, for these guys, the machines start to slide and move. You can see the guys are cutting the excess fabric. They're looking for about 3 inches of overlap, for the fabric pins, and that's it. We want the water to flow through this fabric, and if it's doubled up, it won't. The only reason why some guys are negative on the fabric is because they don't know how to install it properly. Once you understand the fabric, how it works, and you install it properly, you'll have no issues. You'll have high success. Give yourself a couple inches of sand on top of that fabric. Man, look at this angle over here. Look at this guy. We got to back down or the machine will just tip over. When it's steep like that, you got to be careful that you don't go over that retaining wall too. Once you get your sand all leveled out, you can go ahead and put your sod down. You can take your boots and just walk it. You want to take the sod and you want to step on it and push it where the seam is. As wet as it is, you can see that these guys, as wet as it is, you can see that the men here are so experienced at installing French drains. Even though the conditions are not favorable at all to get machines back here, really proud of these guys that they can pull stuff like this off. See, we can't put a guy there to hold the pipe down because he'd be trapped in between the retaining wall and the bucket. It's kind of a dangerous position to be in. So the pins really help us. I don't have to worry about stone getting underneath the pipe. Want to show you guys how good this came out. You know, we're still finishing it up, but Kale's finishing up the sod. But once we take the blower and we fluff it up, you can see how nice it looks. Hard to believe. I mean, it's really wet back here. Super muddy, but this French drain is in. This is a covered French drain. So here's your two clean outs. Covered French drain. We're growing grass over top of these French drains. Can hardly tell we were here. Come spring, this stuff's going to knit together really quick. It's going to look fantastic.
If you enjoyed this video, give us a thumbs up. It supports the channel. If you have any questions about yard drainage, leave them in the comments section. I'm your host, Robert Sherwood, and until the next video.